Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Mellen. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the Village of Wilmette. And today our Electrification and Energy Efficiency Program is brought to you by the Environmental and Energy Commission of the Village. For anyone that may have noticed, it was noticed as a meeting, but we only have two of our commissioners here today, so we will not be sort of officially starting it as a meeting unless one of our other commissioners joins. So just a heads up, there is an agenda for that meeting if you notice it online. Additionally, joined today, we have three wonderful presenters in person and one that will be presenting virtually. So first, we'll start out with Mr. Aaron Stash. He'll give his own introduction when he starts. We're also joined by Beals, Sophia, Seol, and Amanda Hanley, who's joining virtually. They're sort of experts in the electrification field. If you've ever gone to a presentation in the Chicagoland area about electrification and energy efficiency, you've likely seen one of their faces. We do have the ability to submit questions, so paper questions can be written in the back. You can also submit them via QR code, which some people did ahead of the meeting to help sort of guide the discussion at the end. They'll all three will present, and then we'll do a little discussion at the end. You're also welcome to answer or to ask questions live once we sort of work through the questions that have been compiled ahead of time. So I will turn it over to Aaron to kick us off.
Thank you, Lucy. Good to be here today, everybody. So I am Aaron Stash. I am a Northbrook resident, but I will say that I was married here in Wilmette 20 years ago. My lovely wife out there. I am the founder and chief electrification officer of the Electric Home Company. It's a company that I started a little over 2 years ago. Before that, I worked in corporate sustainability and communications and social impact at United Airlines. But about 15 years ago or so, we started on our electrification journey, which was building our LEED Platinum certified house, which is right there with all the solar panels on the back. We electrified that home in March of 2025, thanks to a program with ComEd that Sophia is going to talk about. But before that, we had a lot of gas in our house. And even as a LEED Platinum certified home, we had a gas water heater, a gas fireplace, a gas stove, and a gas dryer. The one thing we didn't have that was gas was our electric heat pumps throughout our process. So I'll talk to you a little bit about why you should consider electrifying. Sometimes when I say this, well, are our houses already electric? Like we've got electricity running in our houses. But how can we electrify these different systems in our home? In addition to that, like Wayne, I'm also a real estate broker with Exit Strategy Realty. And so both of us are working in home consulting, home sales and buying, things like that. But in addition to the Electric Home Company, I also host the Electric Home Show on YouTube. Because what good is starting a new company without starting a new YouTube channel? So you can check that out if you really want to dive down the rabbit hole, or if you're interested in being on the Electric Home Show because you've electrified your house or want to do more. I'm always looking for fun new content. So I'm going to talk about a couple reasons why you should consider electrifying your house, electrifying those systems. And, I'm definitely going to get to cost, but let's talk about health first. So Americans spend 90% of our time indoors, right? Whether that's at work or working from home or sleeping at night. And, if I gave you this glass of water or this piece of fruit, you probably wouldn't drink that glass of water. You wouldn't eat that fruit. But what are you breathing on a regular basis? So by electrifying your home, you can improve the indoor air quality of your home because you don't have combustible fuels there. There's also a safety impact. So unfortunately, over the last 5 years, Illinois alone has seen 28 natural gas explosions, resulting in 12 deaths. The photo in the background is from Northbrook, Illinois in 2019. And so this isn't a unrealistic expectation. We've got flames in our homes. We have combustible materials in our homes. And if we're not maintaining those, they can be very dangerous. Comfort. So one of the biggest pieces about HVAC especially is the comfort level that a heat pump can provide you. So oftentimes, how many folks are like this, right? We just kind of deal with the rooms that are uncomfortable. Oh, this room is always cold. We have a bunch of blankets there, or put on a sweater, or my bedroom is really hot on the second floor during the summer. I'll just run some extra fans, or maybe I'll get a window air conditioner. Oftentimes we don't necessarily think about the fact that we can take action to do something about that. And if we're running our heat pump systems for HVAC, those can be some of the most comfortable pieces of equipment that will run in our home. And then, because no discussion about electrification would be complete without talking about climate, how many folks know what this image represents back there? There we go. What is it? Oh, you're reading it. She's cheating. These are the climate stripes, right? So this is climate change from, I think, 1850 through 2024. Blue is colder and red is hotter, right? The world is getting warmer because of the fossil fuels that we're using in our atmosphere. And if we can reduce the fossil fuel use, either through full home electrification or through hybridization of our systems, so we're reducing our fossil fuel use, we can impact our climate. If I think about Wilmette specifically, the village of Wilmette, 68% of Wilmette's emissions come from the energy of our buildings. And I like this chart, and I would like to, put a challenge out to everyone who's part of a environmental group or a city commission, or when you're discussing these things in meetings. I think we should look at this chart for our community's emissions, and we should spend a proportionate amount of time talking about where the problems are. And I say that as a Northbrook Sustainability Commission member. We spend a whole lot of time in Northbrook and in other places talking about solid waste and wastewater and challenges like that. And there are definitely issues there, but in the village of Wilmette, that's 3% of your emissions. How much time are we spending talking about the emissions of our buildings, whether they're our residential buildings, our commercial buildings, our industrial buildings, or our transportation? So the next time you meet for an environmental meeting, set a stopwatch of how much time you're spending talking about recycling and buckthorn, and how much time you're talking about emissions from buildings. And I think you'll be surprised, or maybe you won't be because you go to a lot of these meetings like I do, that we don't talk about the emissions from our buildings nearly enough, and what we can do as citizens, as residents, to do something about that. I'm not discounting those other things, but let's proportionally talk about them. Costs, right? One of the biggest things. What's this going to cost me? Okay. All these systems, HVAC, hot water systems, cooking, laundry. An HVAC system is probably the second or third most expensive purchase you will ever make in your lifetime, outside of your home and your children's education, right? And if you don't have children, then definitely the second, because HVAC systems are not cheap, but we need them in our homes, right? These are systems that our homes can't operate in our climate typically if we don't have some kind of system. So it's not a cheap cost. And I think when we talk about electrification and home energy efficiency, electrifying your home does not mean you're going to save money immediately. It may not mean you're going to save money at all. Your costs may be exactly the same because the costs of energy continue to fluctuate, right? They don't typically go down. But on this chart, we're looking at gas prices on top versus electric prices on the bottom. And you'll see in 2022, there was a huge gas price spike. And so if you're using gas at that time and you had a system that could electrify your heating or cooling, you might actually be paying less in the year 2022 for an electric system than you were paying for gas. But then gas prices tend to dip back down and normalize. But the point here is electrifying your home does not automatically mean you're going to save money. All right? What are you going to do? You're going to be healthier, you're going to be safer, you're going to be more comfortable, you're going to be better for the climate. But there are some systems. Well, let me go back here. So I've talked a little bit about this. Maybe I should have put this slide a little earlier. What are the 4 things in our homes that we can electrify today? So Rewiring America, which is a great resource. If you ever go to their website, they have a lot of great information about this process and electrification. They highlight that these 4 different systems represent a number of emissions in your house. Your HVAC system, your heating and cooling, is 25% of your home's emissions. Your hot water systems, 10%. Cooking, 5%, and laundry, 3%. Now that's on average, right? If you're a family of 6 and you wash a bunch of hoodies all the time, you might be spending more emissions on your laundry. But heat pumps, the big question in our area, how many folks in this room have a heat pump? How many folks in this room have a refrigerator? Everybody has a heat pump because a refrigerator is a heat pump. How many people have air conditioning? Air conditioning is a heat pump. The folks who raise their hands first who have a heat pump have a two-way air conditioner, right? Their air conditioner both cools their home in the summertime, but it also heats their home in the wintertime. A refrigerator pulls heat. It pumps heat from the inside of your refrigerator out. So if you hold your hand underneath your refrigerator, you feel warm air. That's the warm air from your refrigerator to make it cold. So the heat is being pumped from location to location. Does it work in our climate? Absolutely. So I did this graph on January 8th of last year when it was 15 degrees outside. Not to get super scientific on you, but you can go down a rabbit hole with heat pumps as well. But you're bringing air across a coil, right? This is how it's cooling your home too. So there's energy in the atmosphere. And that energy gets converted inside the compressor outside and pushed into your home to heat your home. And then that refrigerant goes from the outside to heat the indoor unit, heats up, cools down because of it's been used inside, and the refrigerant returns back to your system. And the way that a heat pump that we would think about today works is it has a reversing valve, right? So if your air conditioner had a reversing valve in it, it could run both ways. But right now you have a one-way air conditioner. Would you buy a car that only drives in one direction? Maybe not. You know, an air conditioner in the Chicago area is like a swimming pool, an outdoor swimming pool. You only use that air conditioner a couple months of the year. A heat pump can be used year-round. And so when you're thinking about costs, again, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. I can't use my air conditioner in the wintertime. So maybe I should be paying more for equipment that works 12 months out of the year versus equipment that only works 5 or 6 months out of the year. Do they work when it's super cold? Yes, absolutely. I will say that, again, on the cost side, typically, the more your heat pump works at a lower temperature, the more expensive it's going to be, okay? So there are heat pumps that will go down to 35 degrees and will still produce heat. There are heat pumps that will run to 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside, 5 degrees, -13, -20 even. And the more that they will run in cold weather, typically the more expensive that piece of equipment is going to be. There are ways for you to mitigate your economic needs with your heat pump by choosing a hybrid system. So you can purchase a heat pump that runs to, say, 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and then you have a gas furnace that kicks in. And you're still going to be electrifying your house and reducing your carbon emissions 80 to 90% of the year because of the climate that we're in. Okay, more on that. Other things that we can electrify, so in my own home, we had a gas tankless water heater. Again, we moved in 2014, and a gas tankless water heater at the time was the most environmentally friendly thing that we were told that we could do to heat our water. Since then, we've found out that actually a tankless gas water heater is worse for the environment than a tanked gas water heater. Why? Because it runs like a car in the city. It runs when you need it to run, but every time your tankless gas water heater kicks on, it emits an extra amount of emissions. Whoops, we're running out of time.
Exit out.
Your tankless gas water heater kicks extra emissions outside when it kicks on. Your tanked gas water heater, while it's still running, is producing less emissions, even though it's running more often. What do we have? And one of the big problems we faced is we had a combustible material in our home with our tankless water heater, and it created a giant icicle. I don't think the video will work, but essentially I took my 9-iron out to that icicle a couple times in the winter time to get rid of it. Unfortunately, a couple times we woke up and we were taking cold showers and we couldn't understand why. Well, this icicle had covered the entire exhaust system of our tankless water heater. Thankfully, there was a safety valve on that tankless water heater so that we didn't die, right? Combustible material coming into our house didn't have anywhere to go. And so safety hazards. Now we have an electric heat pump water heater. This is one of the easiest things I think you can do to start electrifying your home. Like HVAC is a big upgrade. It's a big plan you need to make. A heat pump water heater, 10% of your emissions. Now you may need to update your electrical systems. If you have an electric water heater today, you won't need to change that at all. And this system can run 2 to 3 times more efficient than your typical or than your traditional electric water heater. So if you're looking to reduce costs, this is something that will reduce your costs immediately in terms of the payback period. How does it work? Well, it's a heat pump. So basically this system, which, sorry, you can't see all of it, it stands about as tall as I am. 80% of it is just a tanked water heater, electric water heater, and the top section, this part on top, is a heat pump inside there, so it's a compressor. It also doesn't need to be vented at all, so I don't have to worry about that icicle, and I have one less hole in my house. And that's important because we don't want holes in our houses, right? We don't want the energy that we're paying for, whether it's heating or cooling, to go outside, right? Tell the kids, close the door, we're not heating the neighborhood. Third, cooking, and probably one of the most challenging for folks. Not because cooking doesn't work well, but it's a very emotional experience. And I really got this from Wayne, so I'm stealing your thunder here. But, right, this is the heart of the home, right? For thousands and thousands of years, we've been cooking around fire. We've been gathering as a people with our family and our friends. And we love cooking with gas. Why do we love cooking with gas? Because it's a marketing slogan from the 1920s that we've been force-fed down for 100 years, that we should be cooking with gas. Induction cooktops have existed for over 50 years, if not more. And this system is as fast as gas, as responsive as gas, but as easy to clean up as an electric cooktop. But it's very challenging to convince folks who cook a lot and feel that emotional connection to their ovens and to their stoves, right? Nobody thinks about their water heater. Nobody has an emotional attachment to their water heater, but people love to cook with gas, right? Everyone in my family got their own personal induction cooktop for the holidays this year, and that's how I would suggest starting it. That's how I convinced my lovely wife that we should consider induction cooking. We started with a single induction burner, which you can buy on Amazon. You can buy it. Oh, we're losing our minutes.
Oh, we're back. Good. Sorry about that.
No worries. It keeps me on my toes. It's like, Aaron, you're talking too long. So yeah, Amazon, you can buy them at IKEA. You can buy them all over the place for less than $100 to try out an induction cooktop. Your plates, your pots and pans do need to be magnetic because this works through magnetism, right? It's not heating up the surface of the cooktop. It's heating up the pot and pan itself. And so how do I know if my pot or pan is magnetic? Well, if you've got a fridge magnet, put it on there. If you've got a stainless steel pot or pan, it's going to work. If you've got a cast iron pot or pan, it's going to work. If you don't, there are also, I think, toppers that you can get for your induction cooktop that will heat that little pan. So if you've got that favorite family heirloom pot or pan that isn't magnetic, you could still utilize it with some extra equipment. All right, clothes drying. So these are heat pump clothes dryers. Again, this was something that we had in our previous house. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Let's keep our equipment as long as we can. Let's repair it if we can. But if we want to start removing these things from our home, eventually all this equipment is going to fail. And so it's really about building out a plan. A heat pump dryer works like a giant dehumidifier. So think about dehumidifying your clothes, right? And when you have a dehumidifier, if they're in your basement, what do? You get condensation. You get a lot of water that's being pulled out of the air. Well, in this case, it's being pulled out of my clothes. And so our dryer has a condensation drain to it, right? Our washer has a drain because it's washing, but our dryer also has a drain. But what doesn't our dryer have? Our dryer doesn't have a vent. So that's one more hole that I was able to patch in my house, because when you're running your dryer today, it has to pull air from somewhere, right? All that air is blowing outside when it's hot, but where did the air come from? The air came from inside your house. So that energy that you're heating your house in the winter or cooling in the summertime, your clothes dryer is taking that energy, putting it on your clothes, and then blowing all that energy outside, right? So you're losing that energy. Operating costs of gas. So again, I have no gas in our home anymore. And by doing that, we were able to turn off our gas line. And the highest gas bill that we ever paid in our home, and again, we didn't have a gas furnace ever, The highest gas bill we ever paid was $47, and 22 of that, or 20 of that, was just the privilege of having a gas line in our house, right? And so we are saving $240 a year just because we don't have a gas line, all right? So in terms of how you can save money with electrification, if you can electrify everything and get rid of your gas, you're going to save $250 a year at least, right? Depending on what NICOR, People's Gas, Northern Illinois Gas is going to do there. And then just some math for us, when we did finally move our water heater and our dryer, we did find that our heat pump water heater was actually was costing us less to run on a monthly basis than our on-demand gas water heater. And the reason I know that is because we could see our gas bills because that was the only thing using gas for that time. So we were saving money using the heat pump water heater and the heat pump dryer, so it's saving about $8 to $20 a month. Is that going to pay back or have an ROI? It's going to take a while, right? But if my dryer stops working, I need to buy a new dryer or hang it on the line, which we could do that as well. If my hot water heater stops working, you need to replace these pieces of equipment. So it's about deciding what you're going to change in the future. I do spend more money in this winter time for electricity, but thankfully for ComEd, there is a special electricity rate, which Wayne and Sophia and I don't know, Sophia, if you knew about it before that meeting, but the three of us had a very similar discussion like this in Northbrook in March of last year. And I had a Northbrook resident come up to me afterwards and say, "Are you getting the all-electric heating rate from ComEd?" To which I looked at him puzzlingly and said, "What are you talking about? My house has been all-electric heat for 11 years. There's an all-electric heating rate from ComEd?" Yes, there is. Wayne has built and worked with Green Line Homes using all-electric homes in the city that he'll talk about. We did a poll of all the folks we knew who had electric homes, and we're using that. None of us were getting this all-electric heating rate from ComEd. It's the best kept secret. It continues to be the best kept secret. I was at a meeting with Mitsubishi, the folks who sell heat pumps. They didn't know it existed. So if you're using all-electric heating right now, call ComEd when you're done with this to get this rate. This is a 50% reduction in your distribution costs, right? So supply and demand or distribution to your home. That's the wires and the boxes and all these things. 50% cost reduction. So in the first couple months in July and August, we saved $40. I will say that in this last month, I saved $100 because I use more electricity in the wintertime than I use in the summertime. And so this is out there. I have information on my website blog about it, but if you're considering all electric heating, this is a way to save money. It also doesn't require you to have an electric induction cooktop or an electric dryer. It's only heating. So if you're going to start with something here, this is a way for you to save money. Looking at all of these things together, this is really the order that I would recommend. This is from the Green Home Institute as well in terms of where should we start on our journey. So I think right now we're starting with understanding and awareness. It's a big reason that the three of us do this. Thank you, Lucy, for having us to do this, because the biggest thing I see, it's not that folks don't want to do these things, it's that they don't know that they exist, or they're being convinced by people that they can't do it. Over the 12 plus years that I've been living in my house, I will tell you the number of contractors and HVAC companies and plumbers that have tried to talk me out of things, or just don't know how to fix the equipment that we have. And they will most likely, if you call them up and say, "I want these systems," they will tell you no, or they will tell you why you don't want them, or why they don't work. Those aren't the contractors you want to work with, because this is possible. We can do this, and it works in our climate. Technology has improved, but you have to think of your home as a system. You have to think of all these different things. We've done lighting, right? The light bulbs are all changed out. We can't buy a traditional light bulb anymore. But here's the steps that we want to go in. You'll notice on this slide that windows and solar are some of the last things at the top, right? How many folks have solar? Right, us too. We did not go in this order. We put solar on like maybe in the middle or so. But the reason that I put solar on top and that the Green Home Institute and others put it there is it's really expensive if you're going to buy it outright. If you have community solar, great. If you're leasing it, great. If you're going to buy it outright, solar is expensive. And so solar also doesn't make your house more comfortable. It doesn't have you use less energy. Solar is an offset to the energy that you currently use. However, if you electrify your house, you can now power it with solar panels. You can't power your house with renewable natural gas, from your rooftop, right? So the things that you can consider. So I think I'm getting close to the end of my slides. Thank you guys so much for their patience here. What do I do? So with the Electric Home Company, I am your green home guide. So the work that I've done on my own home and friends' homes and families' homes and now my clients' homes over the years has really helped me to determine what should we do first, right? A lot of folks like yourselves come to these events and I want to do something, where should I start? And that's what I help build out. So I do a full home audit of your house, looking at all the windows and doors, your appliances, your electrical equipment to help you build out a plan to electrify. It doesn't mean that you have to go 100% electric. I would love you if you did, because I'm the Electric Home Company and the Electric Home Show. But the most pragmatic approach, especially in HVAC and our climate, is a hybrid system, which is a gas furnace and a heat pump HVAC that is doing both heating and cooling, and you're still going to cut out a lot of the gas systems that you use. Also, if you're doing HVAC updates, make sure that the HVAC contractor you're working with is doing a load calculation of your home. And so that is looking at how much energy for heating and cooling your specific home needs. Even if your home looks like your neighbor's home, who knows what updates you have done or they have done in terms of insulation, in terms of windows and all kinds of things in your home. Every house is different. And so if someone walks in and says, oh, you've got a 120,000 BTU furnace and we're going to replace it with a brand new 120,000 BTU furnace, I can almost guarantee you that your home does not need the existing size furnace that you have. Most of the equipment in our climate is oversized. Okay, so that's why you want to do this calculation. You want to figure out what is the number that we need. I also recommend air quality monitoring. If you're not thinking about the air in your home today, what are you breathing in, right? We think about our healthy diets, we eat well, we exercise, and then we go and breathe in who knows what in our houses. I also recommend energy monitoring. So this is a system called the Emporia View. You can go and buy a SPAN panel or a Leviton smart panel and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, and they work excellently. This is a $300 device that you can put on your existing panel, and it will monitor your energy use so that you know how much energy you're using in these different areas. I think that's my last slide. Yes, it is. Thank you all for your time. I will be here for questions. But check out the Electric Home Show on YouTube. We just recently passed 1,000 subscribers, so that was an exciting day. And all right, thanks.
Thank you, Aaron. We are going to pass it off to Sophia to talk about some info from ComEd, and then we'll go.
Oh, yes, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia Seol. I am an electrification researcher at Slipstream, which is a very nonprofit organization, very mission-driven company with the climate solutions for everyone. That's our mission. But we are also implementing this ComEd electric homes new construction program. So I will share some of the high-level overview of the trends that I've been seeing participating in the program, and also some of the case studies, the success stories, but also like program requirements and incentives. So I'll start with that. These are just a few of our amazing projects participating in the program. As you saw, the program title says new construction, but we do accept major renovation, remodeling, gut renovation, major renovation, remodeling, all renovation projects. I'm just highlighting that because I know it says new construction, so I just wanted to double emphasize that. And as you can see, these project types, dwelling types are diverse. We have single family homes, 2 to 4 flats, Sometimes we have ADUs as well, so a lot of builders are building ADUs at the backyard for a little office or guest rooms. We also accept small multi-family projects that are up to 4 stories in Chicago and up to 3 stories outside of Chicago. So those are the residential building code. So as long as the projects are residential, you can participate in the program. These are some of the trends that I see from our program pilot year, which was 2020. We started only with 11 homes, small but mighty, including Green Line Homes that they started as like a pilot year that Wayne is part of. But in 2021, it grew to 18 units, 28 units, 2022, 23, 68 units, 79, and 112 units. So some years we have doubled over the years, so I think this is pretty fast growing than we actually expected. And so I know we don't have any projects yet that participate in the program from Wilmette, but hopefully we do pretty soon. In 2025, you can see that we have a heat map here. So I do wanted to highlight we have a lot of projects you can see throughout the map in Chicago area, but now it has expanded to suburban areas, especially with the heat map showing south and west of Chicago with the Reclaiming Chicago initiative. Reclaiming Chicago initiative, which is building 1,000 homes in south and 1,000 homes in west side. And they have participated in the program last year. So we are starting at about 40 homes have completed last year, and we have 100 more coming in this year. So that will definitely ramp up the speed a little bit. These are some of the cool projects that participated in the program. Very successful stories. One with the start, the renovation project, a single family home in Oak Park, built in 1919. So that homeowner had multiple phases of going all electric, but they finally met 2.0 air changes per hour, which is very, very tight envelope. Sometimes builders do think that, well, it's a renovation, we can't really have a very tight envelope, but that case have proven that this is very doable. They also have a solar production, so this one is a net positive home. They also have been saving about energy, $1,400 per year energy costs. I think they've been just paying like $14 or $17 per month for just the connection fee. The next home here is a new construction modular home. So they have a facility in the west side. They're building a home in a facility and they're delivering it to the site. But one thing I wanted to note is that it's a new construction, so 2.0 air changes power, that's program requirement, but they went above and beyond and met 0.57. It's very, very airtight envelope, very highly efficient. And so they have shared, the builder shared that two owners living in this home full-time from home, but the electric bill is only $80 per month. So it's been a really big win for them to better support next generation home ownership, but also next generation home. Just the 2 more projects here. On the left, we have a project, a new construction again, but I also asked the homeowner why you decided to go all electric. What she shared was, they wanted to build a home for the next 30 plus years. And sometimes typically electric homes in the US is not common, and so they thought that they had to make sacrifices or things like that, but while actually living in a home, it's way more efficient and comfortable with the heat pump system than a furnace traditional AC combination. So I wanted to highlight that perspective there. And then the last one here is with Green Line Homes. This home got HERS index score -9, which is very, very good result. Typically 0 is net zero energy. It generates as much energy as it uses, but with -9, that means the home is generating more energy than it consumes. So that's with solar. So it's been very, very successful with a lot of builders participating in the program as well. Program requirements, we see it as like a holistic approach. So we start with air tightness. You really have to think about the building envelope. As Erin just mentioned, you don't want a lot of holes in the house. Make sure your homes are well insulated, airtight first. And then, you have to think about the load size, capacity, or efficiency of the air source heat pump or geothermal heat pumps, if you want to have geothermal heat pumps. The heat pump water heater, and the rest of them are pretty easy to achieve. LED light bulbs, Energy Star appliances, low flow faucets, indoor air quality, which is really important, bath fan, and also the window U value. The orange colored ones are optional. Those are recommended, but those are not part of the requirements. Again, induction cooktop, since you will have very tight envelope, we recommend having an induction cooktop, but those are not part of the requirements. If you have a small multifamily, the requirements are the same per unit, but we will have additional lighting requirement, which are common area and also parking garage. So program incentives, we provide program incentives per unit, per square feet. So we have 800 square feet, less than that, typically like ADU project, that's $3,000 per unit. If it's over 1,500 square feet, typically a single family home, $5,000 per unit. And then that's in between, that's 4,000. So let's say if you have a 2 flat, 1,000 square footage each, then that would be 4,000 times by 2, 8,000. If you have a single family with an ADU that's less than, smaller than 800 square feet, then it would be 5,000 for the single family, and then ADU would be for 3,000. So that would be 8,000 total as well. A rater will do a blower door test to figure out like the air tightness of the building envelope, and so they will also receive $200 per unit by filling out the rater workbook that we provide them to check and make sure everything is good to go. This is how to participate. So whenever you're ready with some of the things, you decided to go all electric, apply online. We have an online application now. So make sure to connect with me and apply online. Once you apply, you will submit a specification spreadsheet. So that's basically listing what kind of system you will have, and we'll make sure you are on track to meet the program requirements early on. And if you need to change anything, we'll let you know ahead of time. Connect with the home energy radar as well. Again, if it's a renovation project, it's really important to connect with the builder or radar to discuss, or Aaron, to discuss about the air tightness of the building envelope. And then once the project is done, you will do a program requirement verification as well. And once that's good to go, you will get an incentive via check as well. I think that was my last slide, but I also wanted to share that we have a lot of resources on ComEd website. If you want to play with some of the calculators, resources, anything regarding about heat pumps, we have a lot of resources on the website. So please take a look. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Sophia. So we're going to go to our virtual presenter now, Amanda.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I'm really happy to be participating in this, and I'm already learning lots of things from Erin and Sophia, so thank you. Today I'm going to be sharing my journey of electrifying my home over the past 5 years. I kind of have like a home tour. So I'm going to just kind of go through some of these slides. I think a lot of this information has been covered, but I just want you to see, like I think Erin said, like a lot of people are saying, oh, you can't do it. And I like to say, yes, you can. And I just want to show you what I've done in Wilmette. So my journey started, and you can see my slides okay, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. So my journey started when I purchased a home in 2021. And it was built in 1924. It's a rather large house. It has living space on all 3 floors up through the attic. And there is a partially finished basement. There's also a detached garage with a coach house above. So it's a pretty big house. That's what the house looked like before. I did a major renovation, a full gut renovation. And now it's all electric. I moved into the house after the renovation in 2022. My goal was to modernize the house, to make it as comfortable and as sustainable as possible, have a lot of green features. But one of my primary goals was to make the house all electric. I'm going to kind of just go through some of the features that are in the house. I do have a heat pump for heating and cooling. Again, it totally works. I've had no issues with heating my home. And there's other benefits that you don't think about, but it's super quiet. Like, it's not like having, like, my neighbors next door with a traditional, like, air conditioner condenser. It's a very quiet system, and I can't tell any difference from other conventional systems I've had in the past. I also have a heat pump water heater. Again, it's all electric. I don't notice any difference from any other heating water appliances I've had in the past. I do have also an induction cooktop and an electric range, and Erin mentioned like the emotional connection that people have with the gas flame. I have to say, I can boil water really fast. The cooking is extremely precise and it's super easy to clean. Again, once I kind of got the hang of it, I really enjoy using it. I also have electric washer and dryer. And another like sometimes problematic component in homes is the fireplace. So this is an electric fireplace and I love it. I don't have to lug in firewood. I press the remote control. It's like lit steam. It actually humidifies my house. It looks amazing. It can work. I can use heat or not, but it's super simple and it's kind of mesmerizing. Let's see. I also have, we have multiple electric cars in our family, so we have EV chargers as well. And some other things, like I really don't have any gas in my house. I have all electric appliances that I use outside, including a grill, a snowblower, and a push lawnmower. The only gas that that is used in my yard would be if landscapers come with their gas equipment. Other measures that are kind of ingredients of having an all-electric home, and it has been mentioned, but all of my appliances are Energy Star. I have smart thermostats. Most all of my water faucets in the bathroom and in the kitchen are water sense. They conserve energy. I have really good insulation. I have LED lights throughout, and the home. When I bought the home, it had a lot of the original components, like all of the windows were original. And so all of the windows were replaced with high-performing windows. And I think this has been mentioned before, but why did I want an all-electric home? No, I mean, I did not want to have the indoor air pollutants. I didn't want to have the carbon monoxide risks, the gas leak risks. I did want to have a more comfortable home. I wanted to have the savings that I could get with having more efficient appliances. I don't want to get gas bills. I don't want to pay those extra fees. I have no hookup to my house. I definitely wanted to reduce my carbon footprint, and I found there were a lot of incentives to do this, from rebates to tax credits to all sorts of things. Some things still exist, some things not anymore. Another step that I took after I moved in is that I did enroll into community solar. So anything that any power that I'm using actually goes through MC2 and Next, I always say the wrong name, NextAmp. And so if you do have community solar, you get 20% off of your electric bill, and I really support that. So the next thing, when I first purchased the home, I was told that the way the roof was, it's really large. There's like a lot of different dormers, and they just did not think, and also the way that it's framed, they did not think it would be able to hold solar. I really wanted solar, and I worked with Certisun, and they did like a more in-depth investigation on, the engineering. And they did feel that I could put panels on, not as many as I wanted, but this is the max that they thought I could have and that the village allowed. So I do have a solar array on our home, and it's been pretty successful so far. Oops, I need to do that. And like I said, I worked with Certisun. This is what it looks like from the outside, at the front of the house, and this picture on the side, like no one can really see that unless you're in my neighbor's driveway. But I kind of like the fact that, I'm showing that you can do solar. I do have a 25-year guarantee, and some of the things that I've been told that over the life of this, I will be saving. It says, as if I planted 2,500 trees, using 353,000 fewer gas miles in a car, or the same as charging a phone 18 million fewer times. So I think there's other benefits, I understand, and I think for all of these things, I do think that there's been shown to be an increased property value. A lot of these things are low maintenance. Again, there's a lot of environmental benefits to having solar. And then I upped it even one more step up. This past winter, I installed solar batteries because it was kind of funny, but I kept having power outages and losing everything in my refrigerator and freezer, and it's something that I always wanted to do, and I knew there were incentives, so I added 2 batteries. Again, I did that with Solar-Sun, and the nice thing about this is it's like a generator that it does give me backup power, but unlike a generator, it doesn't make any noise, it doesn't require the gas, there's not a lot of maintenance, but it's a nice way that I can store cheaper energy to utilize, it works with ComEd, so there's a kind of a smart system. It can also help me optimize the use of stored power. I'm still trying to figure out how to explain this because it's new, and I'm just going to shoot to my next slide because, I'm gonna pass that slide up and I'll get back to that. I also just signed up for ComEd hourly pricing, and basically, the green line there, that's what people pay, and that's like the average of that spike in the lower prices. What I'd like to do is pay like the lower prices, and I can optimize my use with the battery and with they have certain tracking apps and alerts where I can try to optimize the use of my system so I don't have to pay that fixed price and I don't have to pay those peak rate prices. I just signed up for it. It's not going to probably happen for a couple of months, as I've understood throughout this whole process. Everything takes kind of a long time to get going. And then I'm going to go back to the data. All of these, like the battery and the solar, and all of these things are automated. There's apps. I'm still trying to get a handle on it because there's a lot of information. And some of the data that I've had over the past few years it's been hard to totally tell the story because before I bought the house, it was mostly vacant. The previous owners lived out of state, so I didn't have really a good baseline of data of what kind of power they used. And then I keep on changing my system and the components, what all of these changes have made. So that's all I have for today, but I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I am just going to give some quick Village of Wilmette information. So first, as Erin mentioned earlier, we conducted a village-wide greenhouse gas inventory a couple years ago, and that sort of kicked off the village interest in electrification after realizing how many emissions we could attribute to residential energy as well as commercial energy. So like Erin said, on the residential energy side, it accounts for about 117,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalencies, which equates to 45% of our total community-wide emissions. And then for commercial energy, we have 54,000 metric tons of CO2e, which is about 22% of community-wide emissions. And it's important to note that's not all just natural gas. There is electricity emissions that are associated with that, but there are some differences there when you're talking about electrifying. And then total community-wide emissions, for anyone that was curious, is about 260,000. And so I just wanted to mention our Green Homes Incentive Program. So the village launched a Green Homes Incentive Program in January of this year. And what this is it's an incentive program for residential homeowners to receive rebates for certain projects that they take on in their home. So this is broken down into 3 groups. There's a pamphlet in the back of the room also with more information on this for anyone that would like it. So Group A projects, you can get up to $700 or $1,000 for income eligible households. And there is more information in that packet, but income eligible households are those as defined with 120% AMI. And I'll talk about that more on the next slide. But that includes things like an electric stove, either induction or electric, a heat pump dryer, electric panel upgrade, and a level 2 EV charger. In Group B, you can get up to $2,000 or $3,000 for income eligible households. That's a heat pump hot water heater, and weatherization, so things like air sealing, insulation, new windows. And then for Group C, up to $3,000 or $4,000 for income eligible, and that would be if you pursue solar panels or geothermal. And the application process for this is really simple. You can do it just alongside your permit application. It gets submitted to me, it gets approved in a couple of days, and then you just have to submit proof of payment and a W-9 form at the end to receive your disbursement from the village. For anyone that's done the stormwater incentive program, it runs essentially the exact same. And then those income eligibility guidelines, that's the 120% AMI info. And to verify income eligibility, applicants just have to submit one of the following pieces of information to me just to verify that, and then they're automatically eligible for that increased disbursement rate. And just to shout out some potentially applicable permits that might be relevant for you in the village. So things like an electrical permit would be required for an electric stove if you're switching from gas to electric. If you're replacing electric with the same capacity electric stove, you wouldn't need one of those. And it sort of goes similar for the rest of this, like trying to think, a plumbing permit would be needed for an electric stove if you went from gas to electric, because you would need to cap the existing gas service. So this isn't all-encompassing. You can find an all-encompassing list on the Green Homes Incentive Program webpage, but just wanted to call some of these out that would be relevant to you if you were looking to make any of these changes. And as I noted, some permits are not required if you're replacing like with like. So if you're replacing a window with the exact same size window, you wouldn't need a permit. But if you were going to be moving some walls, you would need a permit. And then lastly, Amanda mentioned community solar, and I'll just reiterate that. So the village works with MC Squared Energy Services to provide a community solar subscription to residents if they would like to join, but you're also welcome to join with any community solar provider. That's just the one that the village has sort of vetted and promoted. It's a single solar site that's shared by multiple consumers. It's a good way to support clean energy generation in Illinois if you maybe don't want to pursue solar, don't have an ability to pursue solar, your roof isn't right, a variety of reasons. And this is just sort of a graphic that helps to describe how that happens. So the solar energy is generated and it doesn't necessarily come to your home, but it's added to the grid and you're credited for helping generate it by being a subscriber. And you can go to the village's webpage, wilmette.gov/community solar to learn more. And then I just wanted to call out this guide. This really helped me understand electrification. I have a copy on the back that you can just flip through if you'd like, but it's also available scanning that QR code. It's from Rewiring America, and it just really gives a 100-page overview if you wanted to go over any of these projects in your home, which I thought was really helpful to understand. I did want to note it was released in 2021, so some information might be a little out of date. But I don't think technology has changed too much in the last 4 years that it would be obsolete. It may just have some info that's not the most relevant. So that's all I have. I'm going to start on the Q&A section from some questions that we received ahead of time, but also, like I mentioned, you're definitely able to ask some things if they've come up to you. If you'd like to sort of write on a slip and submit it in the back, that would be easy, or we might have time for some on-the-fly questions. I'm just going to put this slide back up here. And I also did want to make a note for the record that we did have one of our other environmental commissioners join at 2:52. So this did sort of become an official meeting at that time, and that would be Commissioner Glennemeyer, Commissioner Taba, and Commissioner Springer. And so the public comment section of this is sort of the Q&A section, but if anyone would like to make a different public comment, please let me know and feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so my first question is, I'm interested in a comparison of induction stoves versus non-induction flat top electric stoves. Please compare electricity needs, cost of electricity, and cost of the stove. Are there any pros or cons when considering getting one over the other? Right?
Sure. Is this on?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all joining us today. So stoves are interesting, right? Like you need heat to cook. And
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
put it close to my mouth. My teacher voice isn't here today. So you need heat to cook, and you can kind of do that three ways today. You can have a gas stove, which a lot of us are very familiar with. You can have an old electric stove. We call that big red cooktop. That sort of gets red hot, cooktop that everybody hates because it burns their eggs and it burns their pancakes and everything. And then you can use induction. So the most efficient cooktop is an induction cooktop. It's about 90 to 95% efficient. So about 90 to 95% of the energy that the unit is using is actually being transferred into the cooking vessel, which is doing the cooking work. Electric cooktops are right behind that, probably at 80 to 90%. And those are using radiant heat by using resistance to heat up your cookware. So it's important to understand the difference between induction and regular electric. Induction cooktops stay cold. They use magnetic waves to heat up only the cooking vessel. Radiant cooktops, electric radiant cooktops, actually get hot, and then they just transfer that heat by conduction into the cooking vessel. And then gas cooktops are the least efficient. They're somewhere between 38 to 45% efficient. So about, let's say, 60-ish% of the heat that is being generated by a gas cooktop is actually heating up the room, heating up the cook, going up the hood. It's not actually doing the cooking itself. So that's the efficiency calculation. From a cost calculation, induction cooktops have, as far as the hardware, they're competitive with all the other forms of cooking now. You can buy an induction range for about $900 at your average home center. Electric cooktops are sort of going to phase out like the old electric cooktops are going to phase out as the consumer starts to discover induction. And so that's right now the market just supports both because one, there's some electric cooktops in inventory in warehouses, and two, some people still want it because that's what they like.
Great, thank you. Next question. What is one action that a resident can take in the next year if they're interested in electrifying their home?
Now it's on. Hey, there we go. All right. I think this is a business adage, right? We can manage what we measure, right? If you don't know what's in your home right now, then there's not a lot of action you can take. And so I think the first action that you should take is understanding what you have in your home and where to start, right? Looking at that pyramid that I put up there. If you just replaced your HVAC system 2 years ago, you're probably not going to change that out. So what should you do next and what's the most economical? I think Wilmette has some great incentives. In terms of best bang for your buck, to make a short answer, air sealing and insulation, right? You go outside on a cold day, what do your parents tell you to do? Put on a coat, put on a hat. That's the most bang for your buck that you can do. But if you've already done that, assess your home, right? Look at what's in your home.
And I want to add on to this. I think one of the things Aaron pointed out during his presentation was water heating. To me, this is the no-brainer. I mean, I think most of us will go home and we'll look at our water heater. There's about a 70% chance your water heater is older than 7 years old. That's sort of what we see out there. And if it's older than 7 years old, that's its useful life. And if it fails, you have water everywhere. You have no hot shower. You're angry. If you need to replace your water heater in an emergency, you're going to be left with a higher bill for an emergency service, and you're probably going to end up with a gas water heater because it's not direct fit to replace it with a heat pump water heater. So I would say a planned replacement of an electric heat pump water heater is the way to go if you're looking for just that apple you can just grab off the tree.
I also wanted to add to what Erin just said about, I totally agree with the heat pump water heater, and also the building envelope is really, really important throughout the years. I've been seeing a lot of builders, homeowners just swapping out the gas furnace to heat pump HVAC, and they're saying, oh, I'm going all electric, my home is very efficient. But sometimes that doesn't really work that way. You're wasting all the energy through the holes of your wall. You're basically wasting your money to heat and cool too excessively. I think next year or this year, I would just assess how much energy do I really need to, just the right amount of energy needed to heat the whole cool and home. So.
Yeah, and then I'll put a period on that. The air sealing and insulation piece cannot be stressed enough. When you think about your home's carbon footprint, if you're a climate change person, this is what motivating you. Your carbon footprint is mostly influenced by how inefficient your home is. And your efficiency of your home is entirely related to the envelope of the home. So how much air it leaks and how much insulation. The size of your heating and cooling system is also dictated by how efficient your home is. So if you decide to electrify prior to making insulation air sealing upgrades, you're going to end up buying more equipment, which costs more money, and where that money should have been spent on heating, insulation air sealing, because that's your best bang for buck for comfort, air quality, and all those things. And at the same time, you're going to spend more money running that larger equipment, right? So if you really want to keep your carbon footprint down, you really want to keep your costs down, insulating and air sealing first is totally the first step to do.
Thank you. And Amanda, you might be able to help with this next one as well. I know Wayne and Aaron also live in fully electric homes, but what happens during a power outage? The power goes out and your home's all electric. Are you freezing in the Chicago winter?
Amanda's good. She's got batteries.
Oh, I guess before the batteries.
I don't know. I mean, the only power outages that I've had have been temporary, but I actually have two fireplaces. I have another one that is like an EPA, it's almost like a heater of my house. So I have other backups, but my idea was to have the battery be my kind of emergency backup, like power source if needed.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Aaron, do you have something to add?
Turn that off again? Oh, no, okay. I mean, the same thing happens if you have a gas furnace when the power goes out, because your gas furnace has an electric fan in it, and that electric fan isn't going to work if the power's out. And so the beauty of, I think, the homes that we live in are the air sealing and insulation. It's not going to lose that energy as quickly as it might in a leaky home. And, I think the same thing on the water heater, right? If I've made 120 or 80 gallons or 50 gallons of hot water, that hot water isn't suddenly going to get cold. I'm probably not going to take a shower if the power's out, but, I've got 40 gallons of hot water that I could still use. It's not going to replenish hot water, obviously, if it's not powered that way, but yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to take this time to talk about resiliency, right? We live in a more volatile climate than we used to. It gets much hotter in the summer. If you grew up, I grew up without air conditioning. My dad stuck a fan in the attic, and we were good, right? You do that in July now, and you're going to have health consequences to not having air conditioning in your home. As the temperatures rise, we need to make sure our homes are safe for our families and ourselves. And the way to do that is to make sure that they are more resilient. To make them more resilient, we need insulation and air sealing to keep our homes more comfortable. And what air sealing has become even more important in recent years with the wildfire smoke we've started to see coming through our region, right? So when you're outside breathing that, it's really bad outdoor air quality, and obviously the forecasters will tell you that. But you can keep those particles outside of your home if your home is airtight. And then you can use systems called energy recovery ventilators to introduce clean, fresh air that's efficient into your home. We haven't even really touched on that today, but that's that is something that gets added as your house approaches an airtight status. Once you get below 3 air changes per hour, it's really critical to start thinking about ventilation and fresh air. And so I tell people, even if you have a gas-powered house, it's even more reason to have fresh air. So just because you have all that combustion pollution inside the house that you should be getting out. So fresh air ventilation systems are something that are just going to become code in houses, and we see things moving forward.
It should also be noted that solar panels will not power your house in a power outage unless you, like Amanda, have battery systems. The solar panels that you put on your house power the grid, and then the grid, the ComEd gives you that dollars back, right? That is not powering your house directly. So in a power outage, your solar panels are useless unless you have a battery.
And one more nugget is vehicle to home charging, VTH. This is something that is going to become more and more common as EVs become parked in people's garages. That EV has a massive battery in it that can, if a Ford F-150 could power my house for 10 days. So just to give you an idea of how much power is in that battery.
So a question about older homes. So many older homes in Wilmette continue to be heated by gas-fired hot water or steam radiators. They were built without large air ducts. What are some options for heating system electrification in these types of homes?
I'll take this off here. So heating delivery and cooling delivery into your rooms. So, turn of the century, we got coal-fired boilers, you got coal trucks delivering coal to your house. You're, using gravity to circulate that water. There's no pump in the system. Heating systems evolve as our energy systems evolve. And so we're in, 2025. Anybody here still use coal? Yeah, right. So it's gone, right? I can guarantee you that when my son has this conversation later, there's not going to be a lot of gas in houses. Fossil fuels are difficult because they are a limited resource. They get more expensive as they get more scarce. And more importantly, they create pollution, right? You're burning something on site. Electric is not necessarily a non-polluting thing unless it's renewably done, but we're starting to see the grid move towards a renewable power generation, and that's why it's important to consider electrification as the future of your home. And this is a gradual process from today to then. So delivery inside your house, wall-mounted heat pumps or high wall units or low wall units are typically used in radiant heating situations. So when you don't have ductwork, we add these basically boxes to the walls that simply connect to the refrigeration equipment outside, which is the heat pump, which delivers heating and cooling into specific rooms. The advantage of using these units is they're the most efficient way to heat and cool your home. There's no ductwork, so there's no friction for moving that air through a duct system. They're entirely zoned. I have a friend who has his house entirely done this way, and there's 7 zones in that house. That house, every room is the exact same temperature. Some people don't like the look of these systems, and there are units that can be installed that are mini duct or ceiling cassettes that are just less visible. So there's different ways to aesthetically deal with it on a design level.
There could come a time when you can get an air-to-water heat pump that would replace your existing gas boiler. There are air-to-water heat pumps today. They don't produce hot enough water for your current boiler system. You can do that today, and again, I'm going to speak, I know enough to be dangerous. I'm not an HVAC installer, so air-to-water heat pumps that you could do with a radiator system, you would more likely also need to replace your radiators to have more efficient radiators to do that air-to-water heat pump, but that could be electrified. But if you're going to replace your radiators and move all that system, at the end of the day, the cost is likely going to be less to install a heat pump mini split system, potentially putting ductwork in your basement and your first floor and split systems in your second floor, depending on your house. But like any engineering challenge, it depends.
Yeah, and the other thing that kind of goes
If
without
I
saying.
can,
All right.
Yeah, sorry, Amanda.
I just wanted to add, so the reason I'm not there is my sister and I bought a 100-year-old building up in Wisconsin, and we just turned it into an inn. And this is also, and I'm here working, but It also is all electric, and we have 6 rooms, and each room has its own wall-mounted mini split system, and it works really nicely. So it is, as opposed to my house where I have like a bigger system, like those wall units are pretty cool, and they give you a lot of, if one person is not staying in the room, like it's not, with the lowest temperature, and then if someone is there, so it just gives a lot of flexibility, and it's super efficient.
Thanks for that, Amanda. Wait, did you want to jump on? No, all good? Okay. Now that we introduced mini splits, we got a question about that as well. So we installed a mini split system a few years ago, and it's supposed to be able to deliver heat as well, but below about 40 degrees, it's pretty inefficient and ineffective. Are there mini split systems that can do both AC and heat effectively in typical Chicago conditions, or would those have to be separate?
So I have only mini split systems in my house. We have 4 outdoor units and 5 indoor units. We do not have backup resistance heat, and our house was just warm and toasty during the polar vortex. So the newest cold climate heat pumps that are using what they call A2L refrigerants can operate at 100% capacity at negative 13 degrees. As I was saying earlier, depending on the heat pump that you buy, your air conditioner today is a heat pump, right? But it doesn't work in the wintertime to produce heating. As you get more and more efficient in cold weather, typically the cost goes up. But again, yes, heat pumps will work in our climate. It sounds like that question, they may not have done a load calculation or, just buying, going to the store and saying, I want a heat pump, right? There's a lot of options. It's like going and buying a car. There's a difference between a Ford and a Ferrari.
Aaron's exactly right. Like cold climate heat pump is what you're looking for in the Midwest. There are heat pumps that are made for warmer climates that are sold, even in our market. They find their way here. So if you have an installer that doesn't know what they're ordering from their supplier, they can order the wrong heat pump if they're unfamiliar. So you need to make sure that you're specifying cold climate heat pumps. You're going to want to see the HSPF rating of that heat pump to make sure you know that that heat pump can operate efficiently in our cold climate. Number 2 is servicing this equipment. If your heat pump is not operating correctly or as it used to, it's likely there's been a refrigerant leak in that system. And if there's a refrigerant leak in that system, that needs to be dealt with before you obviously go out and buy a new system. I learned recently at the International Builder Show last week, you'd be familiar with Ross Trethewey from This Old House. He's the kind of young engineer that's on the show. So he did a presentation that really kind of blew my mind, where like installers are still kind of catching up to this equipment. And when they install these new heat pumps, they have to use a torque wrench to tighten the compression fittings correctly, because when they over tighten them, there are micro cracks in those fittings that can leak refrigerant out over 3 to 5 years, and eventually you lose system performance at a certain time. And you don't want refrigerant leaks. Refrigerant's supposed to stay in the system. It's not supposed to get into the atmosphere. It has a high global warming potential. So you want to make sure that your installer is very qualified, uses a torque wrench to tighten their fittings, that they know what they're doing.
And along those lines, I've had manufacturers, and I think they actually published this too, that say 90% of the challenges with heat pumps are installer error. It's not the equipment, it's the people putting them in. So make sure you're working with the right contractors.
Before I jump into any questions on our list, does anyone have a live question that they would like to ask?
I am a heat pump contractor in the Chicagoland area. And my question for you is, 1, are Wilmette community members ComEd paying customers? And 2, can you have a battery on your home where energy is stored without solar and just using city electricity?
Yeah, Wilmette is under ComEd territory, so fully ComEd.
What about the batteries? Oh, batteries out?
I got battery. Yeah. So yeah, the answer is yes. I actually have a client that has battery without solar, and he uses it for time of use pricing advantage. So he's basically charging the battery when it's cheap and discharging it when it's expensive, and the battery pays for itself.
Yeah, and that's what I will be doing once my hourly pricing sets in the next month or so.
And I think during my presentation I said we didn't have any projects in Wilmette, but actually men participated in our program EH&C, so Wilmette is definitely under common service territory.
1 second.
What's the best way to assess how sealed our home is?
The best way is a blower door test. So blower door test is like putting a giant box fan in your front door. So they seal up all of the ductwork and things inside your house. They put a giant box fan in the front door. They turn it on high, and they've got a manometer there that says, well, how leaky is this house? And so you can get a specific number. So like in the program Sophia was talking about, you have to have 2 air changes per hour, which is a super tight house. I think the homes Wayne's, working on a green line or even less than that. That's the best way. A operator can also bring what they call like a smoke pen and go around your house and see specifically where those leaks are. There are blower door. You can Google blower door test requirement, or Sophia's going to.
Yeah, so we have a home energy radar list who participated in the program in the past too. So we don't require pre-blower door test to participate in the program, but that's the best way to kind of figure out where the leakages are, just to make sure the condition of your home. We do have a list if you need any assist, I'm happy to recommend any of them. They will be happy to guide you through that too.
You can also see it through a thermal camera. So that's the work that I do. I use a thermal camera to see leaks around edges. The reason I don't currently do a blower door test is oftentimes homes are going to need air sealing and insulation, and your air sealing and insulation company, if they're a good company, is going to do that blower door test for you. So if I came to your home and said, hey, there's some leaks around here, you should call XYZ to have that fixed. XYZ who comes in is going to do a blower door test. They're going to make sure that what I saw is verified, and then they're going to fix it, and then they're going to do another blower door test to verify what they did actually did something and worked. So
there's lots of ways to air seal. There's manual air sealing where they're literally finding areas where with a smoke pencil where these leaks are during the blower door test, right? And they note those areas and then come back and air seal them and then do the test again to check. And then there's whole house air sealing, which there's companies that effectively can retrofit your house. And that's an emerging industry that we're starting to see insulation contractors get into.
I will also note, I'll get to a question in a moment, that you can rent a thermal camera through the Wilmette Public Library if anyone wants to have some fun at home. It might not be the most high-tech thermal camera, but you can rent one and take it home.
Yeah, I have an answer about that. When my house have insulation, they do that exam, that air sealing test. And secondly, my question is, we're talking about a heat pump. So how big is the heat pump? One heat pump will take care of how many square foot of the house. If the house is big, does it need 2 or 3, or they come in a different size?
they definitely come in a different size. Typically the largest residential heat pump you can get is about 5 tons. I think within our home is about 3,000 square feet. We have 4 different condensers outside, and it's roughly 5 tons together, but it really depends on what energy your home needs. So I have 1 heat pump for our first floor, which is not quite as big as this room. That's a 1-ton heat pump. So I have 1 condenser outside and 1 unit on the wall that does all the heating and cooling for 1 floor of my house. But it's really going to depend on, are you trying to do your second floor, your first floor, your whole house? Is it ducted? Is it ductless? There's not a good rule of thumb without doing that HVAC load calculation.
I'm going to plug his Manual J calculations he does. So Manual J is a load calculation, so you can actually measure the cubic volume of your house, how much air is in that house. If you know your air leakage, you know how many air changes per hour happen. If you know your R values, you can plug that into software, which affect and number of windows and orientation of the building, And you can actually calculate within a reasonable amount of certainty how much heating and cooling load that house is going to have on the hottest day and the coldest day. And so before you buy equipment, it's often best to invest in that test because equipment's really expensive. The test is cheap.
And just talking about like equipment being too large for a system. So if you think about, especially in the wintertime, our furnaces kick on and it blows really hot air for a while and it's really uncomfortable because it's too hot. And then over the next half hour, it gets generally colder and colder and colder. And then the furnace kicks on again, right? That's an inefficient, oversized furnace. A heat pump, ideally, you want it to run as much as possible, right? It's like driving a car on the highway. It's most efficient when it's going at this certain constant temperature. It'll self-modulate, but you're going to have a more comfortable home overall because you want it to run. Like a programmable thermostat with a heat pump is basically useless. You want to set it and forget it. Now, if you're going on vacation or something like that, but you want it to stay at that constant temperature and it will modulate itself.
So my last question here, we can start with Amanda online and then just go to everyone. What is one thing that surprised you during electrification, or Sophia, something that you've heard from participants in the program, or something that you wish you knew before you started the electrification journey?
Well, all of the incentives I'm hearing about, like the special pricing for all electric houses for heat with ComEd, I did not know about that, and that's pretty interesting. And I didn't actually know about the Slipstream program, which I would have loved to have participated in. So I think there's some fabulous resources out there, but sometimes you just don't know that they exist. So I really applaud you for having this event today to making people aware of what's out there, because I think it can really help people have a successful, transition.
Just to chime in, Amanda, you were in the program, but our program incentive just got increased. So it's the same program, but that was like $2,000 per unit back in the day. I think it was 2022, and now it's like up to $5,000. So it's the same program.
Oh, that's right. I think the builders got like a rebate or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot about that.
All these checks for going all electric, you gotta get lost.
Yeah.
For me, I think the most surprising thing was how much of a reality it is to not have to sacrifice a single thing and end up more comfortable, more efficient, lower operating cost, lower maintenance, more safety, healthier air, literally zero compromises, and you end up with a better product. And I think that as we see a generational shift in the housing market, I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, for me, Campbell's soup was nutritious, right? Like all that sodium, right? But as we've learned more and more about our health and our environment, and as Gen Y and Gen Z sort of become the homeowners, they're the recipients of that information. And I feel like for me, the surprise is going to be the equity at the back end as this new home buyer is going to end up buying my house 10 or 15 years from now. And it's going to be great because my house is not going to be obsolete.
I was going to say all those things. I think maybe I'll go the opposite direction of one of the most frustrating things I think with going electric is finding the right people, right? There's so much negativity on the contractor side, regardless of what you're trying to replace, in trying to convince you that you can't do it or that you won't do it. And I think the best thing I've heard about that is they say no because they don't know. So finding the right people to do the work, it is possible in our area. And the good thing is that there's more and more newer HVAC contractors, even older HVAC contractors and others that are picking up on this and being like, oh, actually we can do this, and this is a good system, and we are understanding how it works, and it's better for the environment, and all these things that are out there. So I think just be tenacious with it, look for the right folks, and there is optimism out there because there are folks who can do this and will do it.
And I think a similar story too, that you probably saw the map of the growth of how many electric homes have expanded, not just in Chicago, but suburban area. So a lot of people have been being interested. I think that's like the most surprising thing to me. It's going faster than we are expecting. And every time I go, we have a lot of home tour events with, it's like a builder roundtable. We're exchanging knowledge with builders, HVAC contractors, architects. They're bringing, they're learning from each other. I think it's surprising to see a true like community of practice among builders. And whenever I go to Greenlight Homes, there's always followers to that leader. It's interesting because last time I went there, the other builder he's basically saying, I'm baby Benjamin. Benjamin is the leader. And so like I'm just trying, like seeing those changes and catalysts is really surprising to me, and it's a good change. So I'm really proud to be part of this program too. So
Thank you all. That does mark the end of our program. I just want to thank Wayne, Aaron, Sophia, and Amanda for being here. They are doing this all over. They're going to communities and sharing the treasure trove of knowledge that they have. They're coming to meetings, coming to commission meetings, helping share their knowledge, and it really is such a fortune to us to have them and have their willingness to help us. So thank you all for being here today, and thank you all for coming. Please let us know if you have any follow-up questions. If you send any emails to my email, sustainability@wilmette.com, I can help get answers for you. Thank you.